Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and this is my wife Becky, who's a practitioner emeritus, and we'd both like to welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast Sunday morning service. I want to say we have already done this service on Zoom this morning, and for whatever reason, it did not record. So this is our re-recording of the service. So those of you who weren't able to see it in live can look at it sometime this week or the week after. When we did the first service, after Becky prayed us in, she read a statement from our home office on racism. And rather than having Becky read it again, if you're interested, and I urge all of you to read it, we are going to post it on our Facebook page, on MailChimp
and Facebook.
and on Facebook. So please take the time to look at it and read it. It's a very important statement. And with that, Becky is going to open us up.
Okay, so let's just take a moment to turn within to that place of peace, serenity, joy, and love. Taking in some deep breaths in and releasing it. And as we're doing this, just being reminded that as we take in the breath and we are releasing it, that it is God's breath, Spirit's breath, this higher energy, higher power. And just knowing that it is the very essence, the very core of our beingness, our humanness. Reminding us that, yes, we are human, but we are spirit. This wonderful divine spirit that is always expressing through us, as us, and for us. And continuing to breathe in this wonderful divine breath. Each one of us is anchored in this infinite love, allowing it to emerge through us. And as we are open to it, that this infinite spirit is calling us to come forth, to move forth as itself, as this love. Emerging as who and what we truly are, this infinite love. Allowing us to open our hearts, to allow this voice to come through us as love, as kindness, as compassion. This love to heal one another, to heal the suffering, to heal the hurts. And so I'm knowing that as today unfolds, it is unfolding in divine perfection, as is Reverend Dr. Ron's message. We allow ourselves to just breathe, to allow ourselves to let Spirit breathe through us. And so I am just knowing that it is all love, all loving, and in divine perfection. I give thanks. I just release this and just know it is done. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you so much. And I'd like to do a reading this morning too that I think is so relevant to what is going on in our country right now. It's by somebody named Leslie Dwight. What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further away. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all. Wow, I really like that. So my title for my message today is Breathe. And I chose that title for two reasons. The first is, this week, somebody asked me, in light of what, and I'm paraphrasing the person, in light of what's going on in our world, what can we do? What does Science of Mind say? How do we deal with these conditions? And I sent that person an email, and I realized, an email on what I do, and I realized I left a couple of things out that I want to cover today, and one of them was breathing, and I'll get to the other one later. In fact, I'll share all the things I put in the email. The second reason I wanted to speak about breathing is every month our home office sends out a theme and titles for talks for the month. And to be honest, I usually, I might take a title, but I usually go on my own and use my own material. But this month, the theme and today's title really struck me. The theme for the month is Mindfulness for Mavericks. I like that. Mavericks think and act differently. They think independently and freely. And Science of Mind teaches us to think independently, to move beyond the group's norms. And for me, in order to do that, I need to become centered. And one way for me to stay centered is to breathe. I have a quote that they also suggested we can use, and I changed the quote a little bit, but not much. And here it is. I breathe mindfully that I may intend, speak, and act from a place of deep spirituality. So what does that mean? To me, it means that when I'm tense or when I'm fearful, I need to take a breath. I need to take a moment to breathe. And when I do, I give myself the opportunity to respond rather than react. I give myself the opportunity to respond from what I value and what I believe, rather than responding to the feeling or the emotion of the moment. And I'm sure all of us can relate to this. How many times have we either shut off an email or shut off our mouth and thought later, I should have waited to hit send, or I should have waited to say something. Simply taking a breath or two does that for me. Try it and see what happens. In a Science of Mind magazine article, Reverend Dr. David Alexander discussed that, and he said, think of a challenge or a fear you have, and then breathe. And know that something within you has the perfect solution to that challenge. And he said, here's a formula. Breathe, affirm, and listen. Take a breath, affirm that Spirit has the perfect solution, and then listen for it. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to speak a few times today about writings from Joan Borisenko. Well, I read an article she wrote a few years ago where she was teaching at Tufts Medical School, and she had a presentation to make that day about to a whole group about getting money to do some experiments. And she had about an hour's drive to get there, so she was trying to get her children to have breakfast and so she could get on the road. And she wrote that her kids were being cranky, were being whiny, and they were spilling cereal. And finally, after doing all of this herding and whatever else, she gets them near the door and she steps in something. Looks down, looks over at her dog, and her dog's got her tail between her legs. And she realized the dog that never does this left a deposit for her. And she said, just as I was about to lose it, I had an aha experience. And what she thought was the dog and her children were acting, mirroring her crazed state of mind. That as she went off center, so did they. And if she wanted to change their behavior, she was going to need to change her behavior. And she was taking a yoga class. And so she sat down and she did a stress-busting breathing exercise. And as she did it, she could feel her energy change. And as her energy changed, the kids calmed down. She got the floor wiped up, her shoes cleaned, and they were on their way. And she said what she learned is peace is a choice. It starts within, and then it flows outward. Eric Butterworth said that Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And what he said that to him meant was letting God be God in us. And he said Jesus didn't say, you shall know about the truth. That isn't what he said. When we have a challenge, we need to know it. It's a little late when we have a challenge to go grab a book or to call a friend. We need to know it. And for me, what that says is we need to be still and know. Be still and know. You know, I want to do a couple of more Jesus sayings. You know, in the book of John, in the book of John, the disciples were depressed because they thought Jesus was going to be leaving them. And he said, let not your heart be troubled. He wasn't in fear because he knew he was immortal. You and I, we get troubled all the time about big things and about little things. Jesus was saying to us, believe in God and believe in yourself because you are one with God. Events come and go. That's why the Bible says so often, this too shall pass. But our soul is eternal. One more thing. Jesus said, come to me, all that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He was advising us to go within and find the connection between ourselves and spirit. And you can't do that, in my opinion, if you're stressed out or you're in fear. You need to move beyond them. I want to take a moment to read something by Khalil Gibran titled Fear, which does speak to moving beyond. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages, and in front of her she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take a risk, to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear, because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but becoming of the ocean. So I want to go back to the email I said I sent the person who asked me what we do. And what I shared with her is what I do when I want to keep myself centered. I pray every day. I pray usually a couple of times. I myself am a meditator. Every morning I meditate for an hour to start my day. I'm not here to sell meditation. I am here to sell quiet time, to taking time to turn off the noise and going within, to provide an avenue for that still small voice to be heard. Like I said, I meditate, and I certainly advocate meditation. Some people find they can do that by listening to beautiful music. Some people can take a walk. Some people garden. Some people do yoga. My wife, who does meditate, also does art to get her in a special place. Every day, I have been putting on the Minister's Listserv and on Facebook either words of wisdom from a spiritual person or an affirmation I have written. Today's affirmation is, today I allow myself to experience all of life. I accept whatever life brings and know it is a learning experience. I go back to those affirmations or those words of wisdom several times a day to keep me centered and to just remember. And the last thing I do, my wife and I, we talk all the time, of course. We can pray together, we meditate together, and we can just keep each other centered. And so I would offer to any of you, please, if you need someone to pray with, if you need someone to speak to, contact us, email us, text us, call us. We'd be honored to be with you. And the last thing that I'd like to share that I also forgot to put on the email is for me to surrender. It's the most difficult, to surrender into whatever is happening. And let me give you two examples. The first one I actually gave a couple of months ago. It's about Norman, who's 92, almost blind, and lives on an island. And he went into town one day, took the ferry into town to bring his dentures into his dentist. And his dentist needed to keep them. So now Norman was nearly blind and he had no teeth. When he went back to the island, took the ferry, his daughter was waiting for him. And when he told her what happened, as she was thinking what she could say to bring him some healing, he looked at her and he just said, "You know, I'm beginning to love what is." If Norman can love what is, certainly you and I can look beyond appearances and learn to love what is. Second thing I want to share with you is a fable about a farmer in China. One day, his horse runs off, and his neighbors say, "What bad luck." And he says to them, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" A few days later, his horse comes back leading a bunch of wild horses. His neighbors come and say, "What good luck?" He says, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" A few days after that, his son is trying to tame one of the wild horses. He falls and breaks his leg. Once again, his neighbors, "Bad luck." Farmer, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" A week later, the army comes to constrict young men into the army to fight a war. And they go right past his son because his leg is broken. And his friends say, "What good luck?" And he says, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" And the point is, it goes on and on and on. The farmer accepts life just as it comes to him. You know, and it reminds me of Byron Katie's saying, "When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time." Matt Kahn writes about surrendering, and he titles it "The Heart of Surrender." And he says we should welcome each moment with openness, with kindness, and with compassion. And he said, ask yourself these two questions. What happens if I stop fighting the things that seem to fight with me? What happens if instead of trying to change the behaviors of others, I become the first one to stop fighting, even though others still fight with me? Joel Goldsmith tells us God isn't found in pilgrimages, in any place, or in people. God is found within. And we can't bring God to us because God is already within us. God is already in the inner stillness. Joan Borisenko says, spirituality is a path we choose to take. The journey that we embark on has no destination. We commit to look within and increasing our faith in life. I want to end today with a beautiful meditation that Joan Borisenko gives us in her book, Fire in the Soul. So as you watch this, I invite you to get comfortable. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. Take a deep breath, a good stretch, and become aware of your breathing. Notice how your body rises gently on the in-breath and relaxes on the out-breath. Every out-breath is an opportunity to let go and become present with the flow. Imagine that you can breathe in the Divine Spirit as a radiant white light, coming in through the top of your head and swirling through your body as you breathe out. Allow the light to flow through you and pour down upon you as if you were standing in a sunbeam. Breathing in a sunbeam, surrounded by radiance and warmth, which extends around you in a large circle. See yourself at 20 or 21 years old, entering the circle of light. Look into the eyes of this young adult who is learning how to make her or his way in the world and express his or her own uniqueness. Let her feel your support for all the joys and sorrows, trials and learnings that you know are in store for him. See yourself at 12 or 13 on the brink of womanhood or manhood, entering into the circle of life and holding hands with your young adult self. Look into the eyes of this young person who is just beginning to feel the stirring of the life force as sexuality. What do you most wish that someone had told you about being a woman or a man? Look into the eyes of your changing self and say those words. See yourself at 7 years old, entering into the circle of light and holding hands with your 12-year-old. Enjoy the radiance of this beautiful little being who values intuition as much as intellect. And now, behold, a radiant angel enters the light and places your infant self into the arms of your 7-year-old. Look into those eyes, filled with ageless wisdom and newborn innocence. In full knowledge of all that beautiful infant has endured in its search for wisdom and freedom, give it your greatest respect and love. Now imagine that you could tuck all those children into your heart and repeat the following blessing for yourself. May I be at peace. May I know the beauty of my own true nature. May my heart remain open. May I be healed. Call to mind one or several friends or loved ones. See them in this circle and focus on them with great respect and love. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you be healed. Call to mind one or more people that you feel in conflict with. See them standing in the light. May you be at peace. May you know the beauty of your own true nature. May your heart remain open. May you be healed. See our delicate planet suspended like a jewel in the velvet blackness of space. Her white clouds, blue waters, and green continents. Imagine her fiery core, majestic mountains, plants, and animals, a living, breathing being of light. May there be peace on earth. May the hearts of all beings be open to one another. May all life reach its fullest potential. May all light reflect the glory of the light. Once again, feel yourself surrounded, enfolded, and illumined by the circle of light. If there is anything in your heart that you need to say to God, do it now. Dear one, Father, Mother, God of all, thank you for the gift of life. And so it is. Amen. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here.